Hey, so in this video, I'm going to be talking about how to set up a podcast. And, this is just what worked for me. I'm not saying this is definitely how you need to do it, but this is what worked for me. And I'm just sharing the advice, from my own experience. And I hope this helps you in your podcast venture if it's something you're thinking about doing. If you hear any noises, I've got my dog next to me. So it's that. But I'm going to start off by, name. You need to think of a podcast name for your podcast. You can have something that grabs people's attention. It's not really a big thing. If you can find something that's catchy or stands out, then that's great. But, it's just a name at the end of the day. Don't spend too much time, thinking about the name. Area and niche, so area and niche is, the area your podcast is going to be in. What theme is it going to be in? Is it going to be in TV and entertainment? Is it going to be about, current trends? Is it going to be about personal development? There's so many different areas, so you need to pick an area that you're going to have it in. And also, one thing I, didn't kind of put down as well, which I just came to mind now, is it going to be free flow? Or are you going to have a script? I think that's something to think about. You can have natural conversations with people where, you have kind of a set introduction where you introduce the person, or you can have, kind of a scripted way of conducting it, like an interview, or you can go with the flow. And, it's okay to tweak it as you're doing it, just playing around with it. That's kind of what worked for me. Podcast host. What host provider are you going to podcast with? Are you going to host with Podbean? Are you going to do it Captivate? Are you going to do it with Anchor? I started using Anchor, and Anchor is a great host that you can start your podcast with. And you can do this on your mobile device, and you can basically do it for free. It's a free app, and it's owned by Spotify. And when you post the podcast, it gets automatically uploaded to Google, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, all the major ones automatically for you once you post it. And when you do the podcast on Anchor, you can invite people into your link, a bit like a Zoom, and then they get into it, and you can record for up to 2 hours, and that's audio only. Or you can do it on Zoom as well, and then import the audio into Anchor, then upload it. And that also has its own editing studio within the app itself, which is really handy. And also, when you do a podcast, are you going to be doing it solo, or are you going to be doing it with other people? Are you going to have other people on your podcast and going to be talking about different topics, or are you going to be just doing it by yourself? Or are you going to be doing both? That's absolutely up to you. There's no right or wrong with it. Engage with your audience. So you need to engage with your audience once you start building up an audience for your podcast, and that takes time. Are you going to engage with them on Facebook? Are you going to engage with them on LinkedIn through creating a Facebook group and page for your podcast? Always reply to the comments and always engage with your audience. Let them give you feedback on your episodes and what they think about your content. That's really key. And that takes time. I think consistency and patience is a big thing. You need to be patient, and it's a process, and not to overlook the process, because it takes time. It takes time to build. You've got to build one brick at a time, each day, 1% each day. And it builds over time, it compounds, and you need to be patient, you need to be consistent. And when I say consistency, I mean, are you going to do a podcast once a day, every day? Are you going to do 2 a day? Are you going to do 1 a week, once a month? Whatever it is, keep that consistency going. And, sometimes life happens, and that's okay. Monetization. So monetization is really important, and some podcast host platforms have their own built-in monetization program within it. Monetization, you can have donations, you can have merch, you can use affiliate marketing, and you can use Patreon as well. That's a pretty cool way of doing it. I'm still learning how to monetize. It's not something that I've successfully taken off with just yet, but in time I will. And you can basically, turn podcasting into a side business as it's a main business, but that all takes time, research, and action. Also, you can always go on YouTube and find good links on there, or ask other podcasters as well. I would also say, how long are your episodes going to be? So are you going to have episodes that are 20 minutes long? Are you going to have them half an hour long to an hour, 2 hours? Or just kind of go with it and just see where it goes? I tend to go with it and just see where it goes. I'm mindful of other people's time. I'm mindful of the listeners' time. And sometimes, when you're having conversations with people, they just tend to go with the flow. And then you're talking for like an hour and a half, and it can go really quick when you really connect. So people's attention usually drifts off around 25, 30-minute mark. Some people, if it's longer, may have different commitments in their day and they might have to come back to it. Or they might be driving on a long drive or walking, and they can listen to a lot more content compared to other people. So I've already mentioned that. Equipment, what equipment are you going to use? For me, I'm recording on my phone right now, and I started out using my phone on audio for the first 60 episodes on Anchor. I had no proper equipment. I just started off basically talking into my phone like this on audio, like a telephone call. And then I started using earphones, like wired built-in earphones for a long time. And then, only just last Christmas, was it about 6 months ago? 6 months ago? I think so. I got a proper microphone, but it depends what your budget is. It depends what kind of person you are. The wired earphones are pretty good, pretty standard. Phones or microphones, built-in microphones are pretty good. But, when you're in a good financial place and you're able to upgrade, then do it. But it's not really something that you have to do straight away. People, I think, overthink the process, and they buy lots of equipment and cameras and everything else before they've even started out. So it's entirely up to you. Equipment. Don't be afraid to reach out to people and DM them and message them, email them if you're wanting people on your podcast. And along the way, you might get rejections, you might get people not even respond, but that's kind of part of the process. People will want to know why you're wanting them on your show and why you're doing a podcast and what your podcast is about. It's really important, how to think about how you're going to pitch yourself. It's almost a bit like, pitching yourself on stage. You have to pitch yourself and kind of sell yourself to people, how you're going to convince them to be on your show and the main reasons why. People want to know why you're doing it and why they should be good for your audience and who your audience ultimately is. And you can find this out, over time as you go along with it. So networking with other people is really important. Networking with other podcasters, that really gets your podcast out there once you've got it moving. Network with other people on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatever platform you prefer. But they're all very good. And, when you have people on your show, ask them, is there any people that they know that may want to be on your show, and vice versa? If they've got a podcast, can you help them get more people on their show through people that you know, and collaborating, networking? And it's pretty amazing and rewarding to see, other people go off and do something on their show and you help them connect together and they go and build something. It's really, amazing to see. And I think, what you give out, you get back. That's how the universe, how life works. Mention that. Join podcast Facebook groups. Facebook groups are really useful. You can go on Facebook and there's thousands or hundreds of podcast groups, community groups, networking groups. And also there's, which I forgot to mention, Reddit. I don't really use it too much, but I've seen people find guests on Reddit for their podcast. There's groups on Facebook where people are reaching out to people on their show. There's also a good website called Audry, Audry, which you can network with people who have podcasts. They can find, you can find guests to be on your show. You can ask to be on other people's show, and that's completely free. I'm pretty sure it's called Audry, Audry. Once you have podcast up and running. So repurposing content. So repurposing content is basically taking, say you have an audio podcast, or even if you have both audio and video, you're taking audio snippets and re-uploading snippets from the main podcast, say 30 seconds long, a minute long, onto social media, onto YouTube, onto Instagram, Facebook, whatever you use. And, you know, people can see that small snippet and it engages with them and, you know, draws them in to want to listen to the full episode. And you can do this with video. You know, say you have a 20-minute podcast, take a 40-second clip, a minute and a half, whatever it is, you know, a key segment, and repurpose that content onto your social media. And it entices people to, you know, maybe want to watch the full video. They may share that to other people, and it just kind of goes on. It, you know, and that's one of the beauties with, you know, this kind of content. You can repurpose so many key segments and upload it. And I would recommend using Canva. You know, once you've got a podcast out there, say you don't really use Photoshop and you're using your mobile device, or you can even use it on your desktop. And it's quite a simple way, in a professional way, to create content and to market yourself as a podcaster, as a content creator. You know, it's really quick and easy over time through practice. It's a free app called Canva, and it's basically like Photoshop but on your phone. And, you know, this is something that I'm working on currently. I did have the opportunity to be on, what's it called now? Park City TV, which is a radio station in Utah. And, you know, I talked about my journey, my story, and my podcast on there. So I think, you know, if you can get onto radio, if you can get onto TV, if you can get on any kind of media source to put your content out there more, you know, you're going to build more of an audience. You're going to get people looking at your content. So, you know, everyone's different, and, you know, this is not for everyone. Not everyone will want to put their content on TV or the radio, but if you're wanting to, you know, get it out there more and to expand it, then that's, you know, and also a great way to do it. But, you know, like my biggest advice is just keep reaching out, keep trying, keep, you know, going, even if there's setbacks, even if there's no one responding to you. Keep on going and just try. You know, there's no harm in trying. You know, you don't want to have regrets and thinking to yourself, I wish I reached out to that person or company or business or whoever. You know, I reached out to Dan Meltzer, who's a pretty big guy out there if you look him up. And, you know, he ended up being on my podcast. If I hadn't reached out to him and many other people on my show, they would never have been on my show. So just reach out, stay consistent, keep believing in yourself, and also surround yourself with the people who are going to support you in what you're doing. You know, if people around you in person are telling you it's not going to work, why are you doing this? Find people who are going to support you online. You know, that's really important. But yeah, hope this helps. And have a great day. Any questions, let me know. Hit me up on Instagram at thepositivity94. Podcast, The Positivity Podcast, on all the platforms. You can email me at thepositivitypodcast@gmail.com. Hope you enjoyed this video. Have a great day.